Greetings and salutations, this is Imperator Vespasian and his trusty sidekick.
Hello!
We're having a look at the commander of our Russian medieval army, who is the glorious Alexander Nevsky. Why do you have that face?
Not like Nevsky.
Why not?
Because he made deals with Mongols and he also killed the Swedish army.
Well, the Swedes were invading him at the time.
Yeah.
So this is Alexander Nevsky. There is actually a figure available for this chap at the time, but I had a spare cavalryman left over, so I decided to convert that and make my own version of Alexander Nevsky. And also I'm a cheapskate.
How did you have a spare cavalryman?
Because I had a lot of cavalry. I bought a lot of cavalry to convert, and I ended up with one cavalryman left over, and so I thought I'd convert him into Nevsky himself. And also the horse lent itself very well to standing on its hind legs. The horse is from the Normans. It's the Norman box set. You can find the horses, they're Normans. Most of the figures wear mails, there's a few that wear cloth. And I used those and I converted them into Russians. I had to cut the arms off, or the shoulders off, in order to fit Russian arms on.
That poor guy.
It took quite a bit of converting, yeah. He's wearing a cloth coat, barding. He's also leather barding. He also carries a mace, which is your standard reserve weapon. Nevsky has a Russian helmet with a cavalry visor over the front. Some men had the visor their own face.
King of Jerusalem.
King of Jerusalem carried one, yes.
That was caused of his disease.
No, he was a Byzantine general, so he would have... The Byzantines would have worn that sort of gear anyway. So he was historically correctly dressed as a leader in battle, although I don't think he was really up to much.
Yeah.
I mean, not at the end, he was dying. He was ill, so, you know. So that is Nevsky on horseback, riding on the back of his horse. And this is Nevsky on foot. He's come off his horse and he's fighting on foot. So I had to make both sets of armour identical, both helmets identical, to make them look the same. So what do you think?
It does look pretty cool.
Yeah. Nevsky himself was never supposed to run Russia. His father was a prince or a king, a ruler, and his brother was supposed to be in charge. But his brother got himself
killed?
Yeah, pretty much. So Nevsky, who actually wanted to go and do something completely different, was asked to come and rule Novgorod, or be the Prince of Novgorod. I think mainly so he could fail. I think they were hoping that Nevsky would come, lose, and then they could get rid of that whole family and move on to pastures new. Unfortunately, Nevsky was sent out with a handful of men to fight against a powerful enemy and won. So that sort of solidified Nevsky's rule. And he was a pretty good commander and very, very clever. He had the ability to think what was happening next rather than going straight for what was happening now. He planned ahead a lot. He dealt with the Russians by... he dealt with the Mongols by sending... by actually going to see the Khan himself and getting a deal, which I mentioned in the other video, which is where the Russians would be paid... the Russians would pay the Mongols not to attack them.
Why did they not speak with the Swedes as well?
You couldn't pay the Swedes off. The Swedes were...
That's a proper army.
Yeah, but the Swedes wanted to conquer territory, and giving them money wasn't going to help.
Well, good try.
Well, you had the Livonian Knights backing the Swedes and the Danes, and some Germans, who were conquering the borders of Russia, modern day Estonia and Latvia. And
Lithuania was
Finland.
already a Crusaders.
Yeah, Lithuania had already fallen. And the Livonians put up a really good fight to try and protect their own territories. And in the end, they were drastically losing. After 30 years of battle, they were pretty much lost. And Nevsky comes along around about 1240, and he leads a Russian expedition against the Swedes who conquered Finland and defeated the Finns. And then he defeated the Swedes. He defeated the Swedes in Livonia. So it was a pretty hard-fought campaign, but he managed to secure the frontier and stop the Northern Crusade. So he did pretty well. Yeah. And he created, it was he that began the process of creating modern-day Russia. A slow process. The Slavic groups of people have been split up into three. There were the Slavs in the north, and the Slavs in the centre, and the Slavs in the south. The Central Slavs had become Europeans, they were conquered by the Germans. The Slavs in the east were conquered by the Mongolians, first the Muslims, then the Mongolians, and the Slavs in the north, along with the Rus, created their own kingdom, which was Novigrad originally, and then it would eventually be overtaken by Moscow. So Moscow eventually sort of enveloped the Novigrad, but originally Novigrad was the centre of the Russian, the beginning of the Russian Empire. Any questions?
No.
Not at all. It's Alexander Nevsky.
Well, do you have any questions on Alexander Nevsky? It's in your head?
Well, his name, Nevsky, is a nickname.
Actually, I've got a few
It's not
questions.
his family name.
You know his family name?
Yeah.
Did he become king because of that?
No, his father was an accomplished warrior and diplomat, and his father managed to keep the warring Russian city-states from killing each other, making way for the Mongols. His brother was the accomplished leader, and his brother was supposed to be the one who took over.
Yeah, but still. So was he a king?
He was a prince, which is not the same as king, because Russia was city-states. So you had one state which would lead the other states, but it would only do it for a period of time, and then another state would. And it was based mainly on trade. It was the state with the most trade would generally be in charge. So leaders at the time would have to be very good businessmen and very good diplomats, not so much great warriors. Because there wasn't a call to be a great Russian warrior, because if Russia actually tried to fight, they'd probably lose, because they had the Mongols at the back, they had the Islamic Empire down in the south, and they had the screaming Crusader armies coming at them.
Okay. It wasn't...
And they had the Swedes in the north. They were surrounded.
There's hardly any Crusaders, so I'm just going to put that right now.
Yeah, they did invade, that's the point.
There's like 1,000 Crusaders per crusade.
If you had all the knights together, yes. Well, probably less than that in the east.
So I don't know why the Russians had such a hard time.
Because...
Stop complaining, Russians, God. You had 100 knights attack you. Chill.
Well, one of the real reasons the Russians won the Northern Crusade was the winter. That's one of the reasons Russians win anything. Because
World War II, the German army couldn't stay there in winter.
yeah, you only had, before the invention of motor vehicles, which enabled the Germans to keep going a bit longer, you only have 3 months of campaigning. You have 3 months to campaign, and then that's it. You have to either retreat back to your winter quarters, or you have to dig in where you are and hope you've got enough food to keep you through the winter. And in every case, the invading army runs out of food. Not because they're not organised enough. The Germans were certainly organised, Napoleon was certainly organised, but getting that amount of food to the front across such vast distances was really, really, really hard. And imagine in the time of the Crusaders, where you didn't have a particularly brilliant baggage system, because each individual Holy Order chapter in each army had its own baggage train. So in the Northern Crusades, you'd have the Teutonic baggage train, you'd have the Livonian baggage train, even though they were part of the Teutonic Order, they had their own baggage train. Yeah, this is after the Livonians became part of the Teutonic army. Then you have the Danes, the Swedes, the Northern Germans, the Central Germans, all separate armies, and each one has its own. You're trying to use the same road to get your food to the front, plus the locals, the Samogolians are attacking them all the time, attacking the baggage trains, and keeping your troops fed in the field is really, really hard. So really all the Russians generally had to do was just wait for winter, and the Crusaders would go away. It's just they would burn fields, kill farmers, and if people are killing farmers, then you're not going to get elected again, are you? Or you might get nailed to a tree. Think of those films you really like watching with the werewolves and vampires in? Underworld. So you've got all the werewolves running around. They're the Crusaders, right? They're running around attacking constantly, right? And you are a vampire trying to run your vast empire, the Novogradian vampire empire, right? But all the peasants who pay you tribute and supply you with blood, because you're a vampire, in this case supply you with work, because you're a trading empire, they've been attacked constantly by foreigners, by werewolves. And you have to send your vampires out, your death dealers out, to try and keep the werewolves at bay while you're getting your food and supplies in. But the benefit of living in Russia is the winter kills off the werewolves during winter, because it's too cold for them.
They're not called werewolves, called lichens.
Lichens then, Mr. Picky.
And the new movie's great.
Yeah, so during the during the winter months, the vampires would be fine. Does it make more sense now?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there we go. So that's Alexander Nevsky himself. A nice little scratch conversion I did while I was bored. I do that quite a bit. I get bored and I build things.
Yeah, he does.
I do that. Yeah. Anyway, so that's the end of the video. No more questions?
No.
No, so outro.
So if you enjoyed this video, please do like and subscribe and comment down below what you think of Alexander Nevsky. That's it from me.
And everything from him. Goodbye.